Yeah, welcome. I'm here with Courttia Newland, the author of this new shiny book
Very shiny.
called Time.
I demanded it should be shiny. No, I
I
didn't.
can't lie, I'm in love with this book. Like, I'm in love
Oh,
with the detail.
yeah,
It, it,
man.
it feels and it seems like the book cover contains like the same kind of spirituality in the essence of the story itself.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, like I really, yeah, it's a full on project. I really like it. So I
Mhm.
thought the best way to even start this conversation with you, Courttia, is I just wanted to understand the world of a river called time. Like, so when
Mhm.
did you first come across the concept within your mind and settle on, you know what, this is what I'm going to
Mhm.
write for God knows how long at the moment?
Yeah, yeah. 18 years in total.
18
Uh,
years.
18 years. Yeah, yeah. Not by design, but
Mhm.
like, not by design. That wasn't meant to be that long. But I knew it was going to be a big, long project. But I didn't think it's going to be that long.
Yeah.
Um, so the first idea that was going to happen, or that I was going to write about this, came out of it was 97, and I just got through from doing the scholar. It'd been published, it's out, I'd done the whole run. It came out sometime in like April, if I remember rightly. And this was now autumn, and it was cold. And I
Mm,
just left my mum's house, and I was living. First, I've been living with this guy um, on Barbary Road in Ladbroke Grove,
yeah.
and it just didn't work out. I was trying to live in this guy's house. I was renting a room in this guy's house, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And I'd had to leave there. And then I lived on North Pole Road in this little room. It was just like literally a house of just different rooms and flats and stuff with different men living in there. You know what I mean? It just felt really weird, and it was mash
Sounds
up.
very
And there's
dystopian already.
yeah, one kitchen in this place, and we all use the same kitchen, we all use the same bathroom and whatever. And it was just like, that's what I could afford.
Yeah.
I'm living in this room, and one night I had this thing that I usually get, which people scientific term for it is narcolepsy.
Mm,
Uh, and they call it night terrors or sleep anxiety, I think. And basically, it's when you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't really breathe and
yeah.
you can't see, and you're just struggling because you think you're gonna die. Now, this
Mhm.
had happened to me several times over my life during my life, but I don't know what was different this time. Like instead of fighting it this time, I decided to just relax,
Mm,
and I just relaxed, and then I believe, whatever. This is what I believe. I had an out of body experience.
yeah.
So next thing I knew, I was above my bed, and all the while I'd been having this like, not being able to breathe and stuff. I could hear something like this kind of whispery thing in my ear.
White noise, essentially.
Nah, it was like someone was talking to me, but in this language that I didn't understand. And when I came out of my body, I looked down and there was someone next to me on the bed. They were leaning over the bed and they were whispering. They actually in my ear, this like kind of hooded figure,
Wow.
and that shook me. That shook me so much that I was just like really, really fighting to wake up, and I woke up.
Yeah.
So then I was like, rah, because when I woke up, the room looked exactly the same. Exactly the same, but there was just no person there. But like all the way the light was coming in through the window and everything, because we were by a high street at North Pole
Yeah.
Road. So there was a street light right outside the window, the orange light coming in, and everything was just exactly the same.
Mm,
I was like, boy. And then I knew that this had happened to me at other times in my life. And I think that was when the first seed, I was like, you know what, that'd be a mad thing to write about. That must have been like, first of all, it was like, what the fuck? And
yeah.
then the second thought was, that'd be a madness to write about. I mean, so,
Well,
okay.
well, crazy because even the way you described that, like in the opening scenes within the book, I
Yeah,
feel like you've articulated that perfectly, like
yeah, yeah,
through Marquis's like own experiences within that kind of dream space. And
yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's what I kind of felt. I felt like this feels real. Obviously,
yeah.
you're writing into your own world, but this feels
Yeah,
like it's coming from a real space.
yeah.
And so, do you feel like with that kind of experience, it also exposed things that you were considering about like your own identity, about how like, well, we live and exist upon this kind of history that has amounted, you know, stemming back through colonialism and stuff. But another thing that struck me strongly was the concept of slavery not existing, like
Mm,
colonialism not existing. And I've never just had to consider the alternative in terms of our life, like where would we be? But what's so amazing about this world is it essentially reaches into that dream space and creates a whole new outlook on life itself.
yeah.
So yeah, how did you come around to that idea and settle in on, you know what, I want this story to be like fresh and not have the impact of the history that we've amounted so far?
Yeah, it didn't come at once. All I knew at that point in time when I had that thought was I want to do something about spirituality. And
Mm.
then I started reading up about it and I started realizing that this is what it was. They say that that's astral projection, you know? So there was that. But I didn't know what to do with it at that time. You know what I mean? I'd just written this book about man them on the council estates. You know what I mean? So like, I was like, wow, I could write something about spirituality. That'd be really cool because I knew I wanted to do a departure. I didn't want to do any more scholar. That was my initial thing. I did end up doing more scholars kind of stuff, but I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to do something completely different, but I didn't know what. And so after that, I moved into a hostel. It's all in it afterwards, you know. I moved into a hostel, and then I had the idea of a sci-fi story that's set in a huge building in like the inner city. Just everyone lives in this city, and then there was a completely separate idea to the idea of spirituality. And then I thought it was Truman's Show. I wrote it all out, and then there's a couple of pages. Well, that's Truman's Show, man. I just saw that right about a couple of months ago. And didn't think about it anymore. And then at some point in time, thought you could do the two things, and also this idea about not like slavery not happening. But I think the slavery not happening thing came quite a long time after that as well. You know, like so all the up until I did Snakeskin, I'm thinking about this. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking, okay. And then it was like if I take that bit and I take that bit and I take that bit and I put them all together, that's my book. And that was about the time that Snakeskin was either coming out or it was out. I was like, I'm going to put those three things together. I think
Yeah.
it was inevitable that if I was like, okay, if I'm going to do a book about African cosmology, wouldn't it be really cool? I'd always been interested in the idea of what happened before. I'd always wanted to do this epic kind of like, this is what Africa was like before. And I'd actually found a couple of novels that were like that. It was just like, this is what was going on before colonialism, you know, before Europeans came. And I had an idea that I wanted to do something like that. But then I was like, oh yeah, you could just do it in an alternate world. Because I got stuck on the point of, I don't know enough about that stuff to be able to do that properly. That's not my story. You need an African writer and you know, Jennifer's done that, right? She's done a novel like that, you know. So yeah, I was like, okay, but I could do this. I could do this, an alternate world.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And what really like captured that idea of like an alternative world as well was the Dominion city.
Yeah,
How I pronounce
yeah.
that? Yeah,
Didium, yeah,
that is so sick. Like because the world building is so perfect for me. I was looking at it in terms of like in my head, it projected like TV show, like what is this area? Like what characters are attributed to that area? And really like how well worked these characters are into these different subjects and cities.
thank you.
So when did like the concept of that whole
Hmm.
overarching like idea of you need this kind of city and the inner and outer
Yeah,
distinction of people and the identities that
yeah.
revolve around them, like when did that come together?
I think it came together about the time I got an Arts Council grant.
Mm.
Uh, so that would have been about the time that's there, like Snakeskin was out. I got a grant. It was I think it was uh, to write something that was completely outside of the remit of what the publishing industry had ever done before. It was just basically an experimental grant. It was a huge amount of money. I was really lucky to get it. And he said, there's a, this guy at the Arts Council, Charles, he said, there's a pot of money that is for just writers to play around with anything that they really, really, really wanted to do that they've never had the opportunity to do. But in order to make it value for money, in a sense, for the Arts Council, it can't just be one project, it can be two. So I did River, or I put a proposal in for River, and I put a proposal in for a graphic novel called Messiah, and it's going to be a vampire graphic novel set in England with black vampires. You know what I mean? So, and I did it. I did like 9 pages of it. I worked it all up as a whole like story. This is part 1 of the story and everything. And I did the same thing with River, and I wrote it up as a 3-part outline, and that's basically what I showed Canongate, that same outline that I'd written up at that time to get the Arts Council funding. And from that, I got the funding, and from that I wrote the whole of part 1 as you have it in the book. I did that in 2002. So yeah, 2002 to 2004. I'd written that.
Really been a span of 18 years.
Yeah, totally.
Interconnected ideals from different moments of work as well.
That's
And you know what?
That's why I call it 18 years. Sorry, that's why I call it 18 years, because I definitely had that part 1 at that time in 2004.
Okay. Well, you know what I really like about this book, and like you even said, you wanted, like, you first started like writing a book like Scholar, you said, like with the man them on the estates and stuff like that. And that's what I felt with like the characters of Marquise and Nesta. I was reading it, like, hang on, this is Mandem. This is
This is alternate Mandem.
Mandem. And like I really like the distinction and the different elements that you have like attributed to the character. Like myself, for example, I was permanently excluded from school when I was like 13, like 14 years old, and the type of characters, the type of situations and people, it felt like you were removing, not even removing, but using real life elements and implementing them into this new world. And did you come across any kind of difficulty with that, like now that you've made this new world and you're essentially taking characters out of this real world and like slotting them conveniently in places? Like, how interesting was that for you?
It wasn't creatively an issue. Like, I found it quite easy. Once I put it in, it was like, this makes sense, and this, like you say, it shores up the reality of that alternate world. It's like, okay, it makes kind of sense, and it gives you a grounding in who these characters are, and it also mixes with the inner city, outer city. Like, I had to show, like, outer city had to be poor, right? It had to be ends, for you to believe why he would want to leave all that and go into this, like, never see his mum again and everything. It had to be quite dark and stuff. And funnily enough, the actual reality is quite dark. So like, it was kind of, it worked for my characters. It fit. But I think chapter 3, I wrote that, and then I think I was really, really happy with it when I'd written it. I was like, this is a banging, no pun, you know what I mean? But this is it. This is like, I really, really got it now. This story makes sense, because a long time chapter 3 wasn't there, and I knew something was missing. It goes straight to the next chapter where he leaves, and it didn't make sense to me. Chapter 2 and then chapter 4, like, were back to back. That's how it worked. So then I wrote chapter 3, and but afterwards I was looking at it and I was like, I'd been rejected by lots and lots of people and whatever, and I was like, you know what it is? It's chapter 3. I went too far. Like, it's too road. Like, I need to take it out, and I took it out, and that became what I called what I said to Hannah was the lost chapter. So when I submitted it to Hannah, that chapter wasn't in it, and she came back to me. She said, there's something missing between chapter 2 and chapter 3. I don't know, like, there's just too big of a gap. And I said, well, actually, I was thinking the same thing, because there's a lost chapter and I can't find it anywhere. I've been looking everywhere, like in my old computers, everything. No, I asked my friend in the US who I'd sent a copy, no draft had that chapter in. And it's only, I had to go back to my flat in Brixton and look in my old, I've got like a filing cabinet. And luckily I found, basically, show you, luckily it's just here in my old flat in Brixton. found this,
Mad.
which is basically my wife had done this for me at
Mhm.
the time, and this
Like
like
the
had that's the first. That's the I changed it around, but that was the old epigraph on that opened it.
oh,
Oh no, that's the one that opens it now. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up. But like basically, the lost chapter is in this, and
mhm.
this is the only
Edition.
copy of it that has the lost chapter in it. So I had to type it all up basically, and I got so it's a very long-winded answer to your question, but basically my problem with doing that came from me being worried about you know the marriage between working class kind of realities of inner city life and sci-fi. I was thinking that the reason it wasn't selling was because it wasn't sci-fi enough in people's eyes, like it just didn't fit, so I took it out. And that was my only problem with it. It wasn't even a problem with the writing or anything. I knew it was a good chapter. I always loved it, but I kind of second guessed myself and I was wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's a brilliant answer. It's not even, it wasn't long-winded at all. It kind of even shows me like the progress of a writer in a sense, because I'm like at the early stages of my like novel writing career, and
Mhm.
at times I've come into fault with that process where I might have some old work, that's misplaced or placed entirely somewhere else, but I haven't really attributed it to this idea that
Mhm.
I'm doing right now.
Mhm.
And yeah, so from more of like a writing kind of perspective, like how do you approach these ideas? Do you just try to jam them in as you go along, or do you say, you know what? For instance, as you said, the book is based on like a lot of African cosmology, the spirituality, and I can imagine that there was a point in which you didn't understand the entirety of these things. Like, how far is your research into these different aspects and elements that you've infused into the book?
Yeah, it's as far as I could possibly take it. So I'm going to show you. Can you see the top shelf up there?
Yeah.
That's all the books that I read.
Wow.
All these books, not every single one, but
Yeah, I can
like
imagine you
mostly.
picked a lot up from these books in order to implement.
Yeah. So I read those first. That's partly, you can see at the end there, the chakras, hands of light. I mentioned them afterwards. The Egyptians, the Metu Netta, African religions and philosophy. I don't know if you can see all those. Voodoo Quantum Leap, that one there. Yeah, that really helped me. So I read those, you know what I mean? And they're all in the afterword. I read those first.
Yeah.
I went on a Black History Study course that ended at the end of, when did it end? I think it was the end of this year, yeah, or at the end of last year. Yeah, I did that course. I basically, when I research constantly until the book's done, and sometimes I even research after the book's done. So actually, yeah, the book was finished. I was still doing research on certain aspects of the book, and I was still changing it and working on it. So I just keep researching until I don't need the research anymore. There's a cut-off point. Obviously, yeah, when the book's done, and yeah, but it's same thing with small acts. You just keep researching. You just research. You double check the research that you've already done, and you just go in. And I was buying more books even after the book was finished, and I was still inquiring with people about aspects of my research. And one person, an academic, she posted some stuff on Twitter. I got in contact with her. She said, "Go and read John S. Bitibi." And I was like, oh, okay, all right, fine. I really wanted to talk to you because you're an expert. You know what I mean? You told me to go off. She said,
Yeah.
go off and start with John S. Bitibi. She assumed that I hadn't read anything when I'd read all those books. So, but then I went back to my bookshelf, and there it was on my bookshelf, man. My wife had bought it for me years ago when I was 2014 or something. You know what I mean? And so I said, okay, cool, I'll read him then.
That is
So
so.
yeah, it was ongoing. It was just ongoing. Yeah, and then you forget it. You massage it, you change things. It's fiction after all. So, but you try not to get bogged down with research. You know.
Yeah, now I wanted to ask you some personal questions about the story itself
Mhm.
without trying to spoil any elements of the book, because I'm very much like in the thick of it. So I don't want to spoil it for myself as well. But
Mhm.
who would you say I was gonna say who's your favorite character, but who are your two favorite characters within the story? Like, who did you enjoy bringing to life the most?
Um,
You went into contemplation mode right there.
yeah, I got to think about that one. There's so many characters I really like. Um, it's not going to be what you think, actually. I really like Capra. I don't know if you got to Capra yet.
I haven't yet, you know.
Yeah, Capra's deep. Capra reminds me of like a black Brian Blessed. So, yeah, so there's Capra. He's in the lowers. I
Yeah.
don't think in part two, but like part way through through part two, you'll go to the lowers and you meet Capra, and he's one of my favorite characters. And I really like Chili. And Chili's actually, I got a friend called Chili. Yeah,
I
I
could
nicked her
tell
name.
some of this, like some of these characters, you've taken inspirations directly from people that you know, because they
Yeah,
were
yeah,
so well worked into the story. Like,
yeah.
who inspired you to write Nesta? Because that reminds me of, in some aspects, which might sound dark because I haven't finished the entirety of the
Yeah.
story, but yeah, in parts, me myself,
Yeah,
some of the like people that I knew, especially
yeah.
around the times of Exclusion Center as well,
Right, yeah.
and that even for me as well, like with the work that I'm doing at the moment, inspired me just to see people like characters around me as characters that I can be implementing in these stories, even if they
Definitely.
are so far removed. Like if the setting's so
Yeah.
far removed from this.
Yeah, that's what will give it life, I think, when you take the characters you see around you, because, basically human beings are human beings. But like everybody knows a Nesta, right? There's
Yeah,
always a Nesta, you know what I mean? Like whether you're white, black, whatever like culture you come from,
yeah,
Asia, whatever, there's always a Nesta. And so I just wanted to capture, he's many people, but there's a couple of key people who I'd be like, oh yeah, that's Nesta, that's Nesta. And if you ever see any of my bridges, you'd be like, oh yeah, no, that's Nesta. So it's a few people. But what I really love about what I could do with Nesta as a character is the different Nestas.
hmm
So there's three different Nestas at least there's four actually, but I won't go into that because you ain't got there yet. But like there's three at least different Nestas, and I love the fact that it was a different one every time. So you get to see the facets of this character rather than just like one. This is who he is.
yeah. And I guess that is so like fun to play with when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
the aspect of world building. Because the way you
Mm.
built up this world, it literally feels like a TV show and a game setting, like kind of
Mm-hmm.
rolled into one. If you get what I'm
Yeah, totally.
it's a total open world kind of exploration.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just have to big you up for that, man. You've sucked
Thank
in.
you.
So like I literally got to pick up the book the other day when I went to the office.
Yeah.
Yeah, every chance I've had, I've just been glued to it. And
Thank you.
yeah, it's a real beautiful story. So I think probably to yeah, even to leave off, I just wanted to get some more comments in regards to like the impetus behind your story. Like, what would
Mm.
you want the readers to feel once they're going through this book? Because personally, for me at this moment, I'm feeling quite empowered by the
Mm.
notion of just the different ideas and possibilities that life could have had itself.
Mm.
It's also inspired me to pick up those books as well about like African spirituality. It's always been something that I felt I wanted to, engage with, but
Mm.
it seemed like quite far away. But especially with these kind of characters and the settings that you've presented, is
Mm.
picking at different notions that is making me want to
Yeah.
invest in that space. So yeah, I can already personally tell by the end of this story, I'm going to be so much yeah,
Mm.
so motivated to really investigate
Yeah.
myself and my identity and where I'm coming from. So, yeah,
Yeah.
what would you like the readers to leave this book with?
I think that's partly it. I think, when I started out, I was thinking it was just a really cool idea about the fact that I would like to marry our reality with our spirituality. I would like to, I'd like us, like you said, to have more investment in that. Like we always kind of
Yeah.
feel like it's kind of divorced from us, and
So
I'd felt like
note that down. You said marry our
our
reality.
reality with our spirituality. So
That.
Yeah, like I went to see a guy one time. I went to Thailand, and
Mhm.
I did some like meditation classes with this guy, a really cool guy. And the first class we did, we tried to meditate. And he said, like, all right, so I want you to just lie down and I want you to try and shut out all the noises from outside. I want you to all and try and meditate. And so we were like, okay, we're going to do that. And then cars were beeping and dogs were barking and people were talking. He was like, how did that go? You know, after about a minute or so, we were like, we can't do it. He said, exactly. It's impossible, right? So the thing is not to try and block out all the outside noises when you're doing this kind of thing. It's to like just accept them as part of like the meditation, and you just let it ride over you. I was like, wow, I've always thought meditation was like you're supposed to have silence and all this stuff. And he was like, no, not at all, because you're not going to be able to attain that. And it's the same way with the spirituality. In a sense, I wanted to have a spirituality which didn't come out of some kind of Zen kind of Buddhist, lock yourself away in a mountain somewhere. It's kind of like if we had managed to keep our cosmology, we would have it would have been in a lived situation, you know. So John says in African religion and philosophy, he says that African people do not practice religion as separate from life. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like traditionally, you know what I mean? There's no, you don't go to a temple. You don't like, so you don't remove it from your daily life. It's intrinsic to everything you do. It's always there. It always exists. It's always around you. So if there's any one thing that I want people to take away, it's that really. I wanted to do a science fiction where religion is is talked about, you know what I mean? It's not discounted because most European science fiction, they try and like, if people are religious, they're zealots, you know. I'm watching like, I'm watching Raised by Wolves, you know what I mean? And they're like, if the religious people are zealots, matters, you know what I mean? So, but I wanted a more, okay, this is just part of everyday existence and it's no biggie to them, it's normality.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That is so brilliant. And I think, well, obviously I did say last question, but you got me
No,
thinking,
cool.
so
Yeah, man. Yeah.
what about you personally? What was your growth throughout
Mm-hmm.
the entirety of this process? How do you feel
Mm.
on the back end of the book coming out?
I'm still trying to work it out. And also, the thing is that this book is coming out right off the back of Small Axe. To be honest with you, being so Small Axe. I've not had a chance to. Oh yeah, like the other day I was like, wow, it's coming out next month. Like
Yeah.
it really, like it's just, it was. I just remembered. I haven't had the chance to be nervous. I was saying to Hannah, I might edit. I haven't had the chance for it to sink in. It's coming, but yeah, it's been a. I'm still trying to work it out. It's been a very, very, very strange journey with this book, and it makes sense. It's a strange journey. Sorry,
Especially with this year as well. This
with
year,
this year and everything, it was meant to come out in August. I'm so glad it didn't come out in August. But like, I don't know. Even the fact of it, me beginning it in 2002, roughly, maybe even 1997, if you want to count that far, and just doing it now, it feels like I don't know. It just like I'm not sure if I'd have been able to do it then, and I'll never find out because it didn't work out that way. I don't know. I like almost like I had to go through some kind of spiritual passage to even be able to write the book. You know, I went through a lot of stuff in between that was just mad, like the whole publishing industry stuff, and you know, no one wanted this book. You know, I tried so many publishers. I had such a hard time trying it. I was with many different agents, could never get this book out. And then all of a sudden, for it to be happening, and even when I wrote this after I'd written Red, White, and Blue and Lovers Rock, so I had a small window. I was meant to write it the whole year, and it was just like the small things were just that was the thing I was doing. So Hannah understood, and then I had a window of between I think it was August and January. And if I couldn't get it in that time, if I couldn't finish the book in that time, then I don't know. They didn't say anything, but they were like, "We need to get it by January. You need to finish the book by then." So I just had to just blitz it, and I sat down, and it just all came out. It was so weird. It was just like it was just there,
mm,
like you know what I mean. And I don't know. It just feels very, very strange. I mean, like
that was
it
like
was like
a whole very like long domino effect of so many different experiences that led you on to the next one, onto the next one,
yeah,
and
yeah,
these things have counted up, and you've produced this work. So
yeah.
as an outsider, I would just say honestly, well done. It sounds
Oh, thank
brilliant
you.
and phenomenal, and especially with, like you said, the work that you were doing on Small X, with such content, like, you know, stemming from like a Black British background. I feel like there is such a emotional weight that's on top of, you know, the creative work that we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, to do all of that throughout the pressures of working on so many different other projects, it's just testament to how great of a writer you are.
Oh,
So
thank
yeah,
you, man.
on that.
Oh no, I appreciate that very much, man. I mean, let's. I hope people enjoy it, you know. But yeah, I did as good as I could do, I suppose. But I'm really pleased with it. I don't feel. That's part of the reason I don't feel nervous. I'm really proud of it.
Yeah,
Can't wait. You know,
I
can't
love
wait for
it.
it to hit.
But
Thank
yeah,
you.
man, when you get that shout for it to be a game on PS5, just tell me.
Bro, I'm trying for that, you know. I've been
Yeah,
talking to my agent, man. I've been like, please, can we make this into a game? And he's like, oh, I don't know, whatever. I don't care what precedents happened before. I want to do this because I'm playing No Man's Sky right now. Have you played that?
now I've heard.
Uh,
I think I've seen.
it's
It's like an open world.
sick, bro. It's the most open world I've been. I was like, I don't know if I can play anything else again. I mean, like,
Yeah, no,
I'm loving this so much. I'm not even playing Star Wars Squadron, nothing. Yeah, I'm just.
I love those are the type of games and settings that I love. You know, like the open world, interactive. Every story is relevant to the actual
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
So, yeah, man, that's the
Right.
feels and the vibes I definitely got from the book. So
That's great.
I hope we get there, man.
Cool. Be good, man.
Yeah, Courttia, I love. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining.
you, Jude. You know what I mean? Bless,
Yeah,
bless, bless.
I'll finish the book and I'll will give you my review. I'm definitely gonna review it for my website.
Cool.
So yeah, I'll
Cool.
do that.
Let me know how you feel, man. Be good. If you need anything else, I'm here, man.
Thank you. We'll
All
definitely
right. Bless, bless. All right. Take care.
much take care.